And hello everyone, this is PK Yugioh. Welcome back to the channel. So today I have a new deck profile for you guys. This is Ice Barrier. So with the release of Terminal World in the OCG a few months ago now, Ice Barrier's got new support alongside Infernoid, Gen X, and Ritual Beast. Admittedly, when I first saw the Ice Barrier support, I kind of ignored it because Ice Barrier, right, how good is that support going to be? I actually kind of didn't like that they got support because I thought Ice Barrier had gotten too much of it. But it turns out that support is really good. So much so that not long after Terminal came out, a guy piloting Ice Barrier got second place at a big OCG tournament. That made me and a friend want to pick up the decks. We picked it up, we kind of tweaked and tinkered with it, and this is what ultimately I ended up playing. I took this to locals a few days ago, and I lost to Sinful Spoils Fire King and Raid Raptor, but I beat Nate Sherrier Runic and Chimera. I could have won the Sinful Spoils Fire King matchup. I think I just was too aggressive. I played Nibiru, and then he top decked Snake Eye Oak and OTK'd me. Because turns out he plays two Promethean Princesses after I banished the first. But anyway, I'll just take a little bit of time and show you what the deck looks like. And think of this more as a proof of concept than an optimal deck list. This is 100% not optimized. Just linked to help you inform your own deck building choices when this deck comes to your region. So, without any further ado, let's just jump right into it. Starting off with the monsters. We have 3 copies of Revealer of the Ice Barrier. So Revealer has 3 effects, and you can only use the second and third effect once per turn. Her first effect is while you control an Ice Barrier, your opponent can't tribute summon, so get wrecked, Monarch players. Her second effect is you can discard a card, summon a Ice Barrier tuner from your deck, and then you're locked into water monsters for the rest of the turn. And her third effect is if she's in your graveyard and you discard a card or send a card from hand to grave to activate Ice Barrier monster effect, you can banish her instead. That doesn't matter. There's a variant on this deck where that does, but in this version it doesn't. Now, at the time that Revealer was revealed, she wasn't that good because there weren't good Ice Barrier tuner monsters. Well, now there are. The 2 pieces of support Ice Barrier got in Terminal World are 2 tuner monsters, and this is the first one. This is Mirror Magic Master of the Ice Barrier. He has a level 2 Water Aqua, Sprite support, and he has 2 effects. First effect is you contribute another effect monster, special summon up to 3 Ice Barrier tokens, so level 1 Water Aquas, and if you do, increase this card's level by the combined levels of those monsters. So if you summon 3 tokens, he gains 3 levels. Also, for the rest of the turn, you cannot summon monsters in the extra deck except for water synchro monsters. His second effect is if you send to the graveyard, you can add an Ice Barrier card, not monster, card, from your deck or that is banished to your hand. This is the best monster in the deck. The whole reason why Revealer is so good now is because Revealer can get him. He enables so much. He searches your entire deck. He can recur a lot of your deck. He lets you go into the big synchro plays. He does everything. He does your taxes. Yeah. He's crazy. The other crazy one is Yugioh, Swordsman of the Ice Barrier. So he is a level 6 water winged beast tuner, and you can only use the first and second effect of this card once per turn. If you control an Ice Barrier, you can just special summon it from your hand. If you use normal or special summon, you can summon a level 5 or lower Ice Barrier monster from your hand or graveyard. And while you control another Ice Barrier monster, your opponent cannot activate the effects of monsters in their graveyard. Against Sinful Spoils Fire King, this is the best card to summon against them. Turns off Promethean Princess. It turns off Amblo Whale. It turns off High Avatar Kirin. It turns off Sacred Fire King Garunix that's in the graveyard, right? You can blow up Arvadas, no problem. One kind of funny interaction is because he doesn't target, if you, for whatever reason, decide to tribute summon him, I don't know why you would, but you can go Chainlink 1 Yugioh, Chainlink 2 Mirror Magic Master, switch Ice Barrier monster, and then resolving Yugioh, you can summon the Ice Barrier from your hand, and it's always a legal activation because you can summon from grave and you can always revive the Mirror Magic Master. He's really good. His level also matters. A level 6 tuner is really good because we do play a bunch of level 10 synchros. This deck is really good at making level 10 synchros. That's the whole game plan. And so having a level 6 tuner doesn't matter because we are playing a bunch of level 4s. The last tuner we are playing is Hexagrub. So Hexagrub's relevant effect is during your main phase, you can send a level 3 or lower Ice Barrier from your deck to the graveyard, and if you do, until the end of this turn, this card's level becomes the same as that monster's level. It sends for effect, not cost, so you can get Ash on it, and that really sucks. He's relevant because this is 2 extra copies of Mirror Magic Master, right? If you don't open Mirror Magic Master but open the Hexagrub, normal Hexagrub, use this effect, send Mirror Magic Master, get a search. You can search for one of the Ice Barrier Reborn spells, get back the Mirror Magic Master, and you can do all your synchro plays. I would consider cutting Hexagrub down to 1. I was setting him out a lot, but because he is extra copies of Mirror Magic Master, I think he is worth playing. You're also playing 2 copies of Speakers for the Ice Barrier. So her effects are, if you control an Ice Barrier monster, you can summon it from your hand. And then, if you control an Ice Barrier monster, you can banish her from your graveyard and then summon a level 1 Ice Barrier token. She has another effect, your opponent's monster can't change the battle position if you control another Ice Barrier, but like, let's be real, that doesn't matter. She's crazy. She's the only non-tuner monster in this deck that can just special summon herself. So she is your only extender, really. Her plus Gorgus is nice, it's an easy level 10. She can turn herself into a level 1 later. There is a kind of funny combo that requires her Mirror Magic Master. You draw like 4 cards. I would consider bumping her up to 3 and maybe cutting Hexagrub to 1 though. I still have to do a little bit of testing with that. We're also playing 1 copy of General Wayne, the Ice Barrier. So Wayne says, I'm very sorry, this is a lot of read. He says, if your opponent controls a monster and you control an Ice Barrier monster, you can special summon him from your hand. If he is normal or special summon, you can add an Ice Barrier spell with trap from your deck to your hand. And then while you control another Ice Barrier monster, all spells and traps that your opponent sends from the field to the graveyard are banished instead. I summon this guy against Runic, in theory, because you can turn off Runic Fountain. Well, not turn off Runic Fountain, but you get rid of the Runic spells so they can't keep recycling them, and that can matter. Probably the most I ever used this guy was against a casual Sky Striker player, or in a casual match against Sky Strikers. I summoned him. He had an Engage Engrave, so I was like, oh, good luck, buddy. He's really good. The search effect is crazy. Ice Barriers have some really good spells and traps that are now enabled by the fact that they now have really good tuner monsters. The last 2 Ice Barrier monsters we are playing are Floodgates. We are playing 1 copy of Warlock of the Ice Barrier and 1 copy of General Raiho. So, Warlock of the Ice Barrier is a walking anti-spell fragrance. If you control another Ice Barrier, both players must set spell cards before activating them, and they can't activate the turn that they're set. General Raiho says, while on the field, when your opponent's monster effect resolves on the field, they can discard a card. If they don't, however, that effect is negated. It's their choice. Ice Barriers have the ability to cheat out Floodgates on your opponent's turn, and Raiho is probably the best one. Warlock is a bit of a contentious option. There is another card that you can play. The list that got second at the OCG event was not playing Warlock, they were playing, I believe this is Magic Breaker of the Ice Barrier. She's level 4. Her effect is, once per turn, you can send an Ice Barrier monster from your hand to the graveyard. And then while you control this face-up card, until the end of your next turn, neither player can activate spell cards. She is bigger than Warlock. Warlock is really dinky, only 400 attack, 1000 defense. She has 2000 defense, so she's a little bit harder to clear. And her effect is more comprehensive. This is also the reason why Revealer's effect might matter. If you choose to play Magic Breaker over Warlock, you can banish the Revealer from the Ice Barrier as the cost for her effect. So, I think Magic Breaker is a perfectly fine card to play. I was just testing out Warlock. Warlock has 2 distinct advantages over Magic Breaker. Number 1, it's a continuous effect, so it applies the moment it hits the board. Magic Breaker is an ignition, so if you summon on your opponent's turn, which you can do in Ice Barrier, which is what you're supposed to do in Ice Barrier, it doesn't matter, right? Because you won't get the magic lock. If you are able to summon Warlock on your opponent's turn, you can apply the anti-spell fragrance lock immediately. But the other thing that matters is that she is a level 3. So if you need to, you can bin her off of Hexagrub to make him a level 3 tuner. I don't think you'd ever need to do that. It never came up for me, but it is another option. Warlock was not bad when I used her. She put in work against the Runic player specifically. But I don't think you're hurting yourself by playing one or the other. I played Magic Breaker for a long time and it didn't matter to me. The last of the water monsters we are playing is 1 Ice Jade Ron Adrian. If you don't know what this card does, basically you can discard a water monster from your hand or a Ice Jade card, special summon it from your hand, then you can summon an Ice Jade token. It's a level 3 non-tuner. She's a level 7 tuner. She has another effect where, like, if she's equipped to a monster, you can treat her as Ice Jade Indian Cradle, but that doesn't matter for the purposes of this deck. The fact that she is an instant level 10 synchro That's enough. The last monsters are just hand traps. We are playing the best card in the OCG, Max C. The second best card in the OCG, Ash Blossom, because it beats the best card, Max C. 2 Nibiru and 2 Droll and Lockbird, rounding out our monster lineup. Going on into the spells, we have 3 copies of Medallion of the Ice Barrier. If you're wondering why this one looks weird, that is the alternate art. This is a rota for Ice Barriers, and it's not once per turn. I don't think I need to explain any more about how crazy this card is. We are playing 1 copy of Winds over the Ice Barrier. This card is interesting. So you contribute any number of Ice Barrier monsters, special summon the same number of level 4 or lower Ice Barrier monsters with different names from your deck. The other effect is you can banish the card from your graveyard except the turn it was sent there, and then target 1 Ice Barrier monster that is either banished or in your graveyard and add it to your hand. That second effect, in theory, comes up. I've never been able to resolve it. There's a really cheeky combo that you can do with this and Mirror Magic Master, because the tokens are Ice Barrier tokens. You activate Winds, you sack 3 tokens, you get 3 Ice Barriers out of your deck. Even in simplified game states, even if you can't get a big number of Ice Barriers on the board to maximize the use of this card, being able to contribute even 1 or 2 Ice Barriers to switch it out for an Ice Barrier you need in your deck, that's enough. If you sack off Mirror Magic Master, you can trigger its effect as well. So this card does have its applications. I think at the time it was released, like Reveal of the Ice Barrier, it didn't matter very much. Now it does, since Ice Barriers have better swarming ability. The last card for Ice Barriers is Freezing Chains of the Ice Barrier. So when this card is activated, you can target a level 4 or lower Ice Barrier in your graveyard and special summon it. While you control 3 or more Ice Barriers, your Ice Barrier monsters are unaffected by the effects of monsters summoned from the extra deck. I was amazed at how good this card actually was. This card allows you to play a little bit more aggressively into Disruption, because you know that if your Mirror Magic Master gets negated or something, you have extra follow-up. There's a combo that requires you link off Mirror Magic Master first, and then bring it back with that link monster. We're playing Coral Anemone, spoiler alert. Which seems kind of risky, right? 'Cause if they negate the Coral Anemone, you're kind of screwed. But you can use Mirror Magic Master to search for this thing. So even if it gets negated, you just play this, bring back the Mirror Magic Master, and you keep it, and you can keep comboing off anyway. Then we are playing 1 Foolish Burial, searches for Mirror Magic Master, 2 Foolish Burial Goods. We are playing a really nutty trap card. 1 Crossout, and then 2 Triple Tactics Talent. These should have been Call by the Graves. I did not realize until after I entered that I did not have Call by the Graves in this deck. I might consider cutting these for Call by, or just adding Call by, making 42. I did kind of miss it, because I was getting hand trapped constantly. And the last card is for Foolish Burial Goods. We are playing 3 copies of Ice Barrier. Yeah, that's searchable with General Wayne and Mirror Magic Master. So the way that this card works is it says, when an attack is declared involving an opponent's monster, your opponent's monster's attack becomes 0, its effects are negated, and it can't change its battle position. Its second effect, which is much more important, is you can banish it from your graveyard, send a level 5 or higher water monster from your deck to the graveyard, then you can add a water monster from grave to hand. Till the end of the next turn, you are locked into summoning water monsters. This is how you're searching Adrian Ron, right? You banish it, you dump Adrian Ron, you get it back into your hand. Was it Ron Adrian? I forget. You can also add back any water monster. It doesn't have to be the one that you send. You just have to send a level 5 first. So in the mid to late game, you banish this, you can send a Gorgias or General Wayne, get back Mirror Magic Master, get back Revealer, get back whatever you want. There is another potential thing that you can do with Nibiru, right? You can do the same thing that like Labyrinth can kind of do, and basically give yourself the water lock in response to your Nibiru. So you are locked into waters, you get your search, and then when Nibiru resolves, you can't summon it because you can't summon anything except for water monsters. So you still distribute the board, you just don't summon anything. That never came up, but that is another option. At the time, admittedly, I did not see that line. But yeah, this card is crazy. So that does it for the main deck. We're looking at a 40 card main deck. Going on into the extra. Extra's organized a little bit weird. We're going to go in order mainly in terms of utility. Starting up with the best monster in the extra deck, we have 2 copies of Lancia, Dragonic Ancestor of the Ice Spirit Mountain. This is a level 10 dragon waters monster with 3300 attack, 2700 defense, requires 1 water monster and then 1 or more non-tuners. Up to twice per turn, if your opponent special summons a monster, you can special summon an Ice Barrier monster from your hand, deck, graveyard, or extra deck, Then you can change one attack position monster your opponent controls to defense position. You can only use this effect once per chain and up to twice per turn. The second effect is if this synchro summon card in its owner's control leaves the field by an opponent's card, you can special summon one Ice Barrier synchro monster from your extra deck and treat this as a synchro summon. This is how you are cheating out General Raiho and Warlock on your opponent's turn. Depending on the matchup, you can also cheat out things like Yugioh to lock the graveyard. This thing is amazing. You're trying to end with this. It gives you some Nibiru protection, because if it gets nibbed, you can resolve its second effect, and you can float into the other two really good cards in the extra deck where you're playing both versions of Trishula. There are many games where when I summon Trishula off a land state, my opponent just scooped, because these effects in a simplified game state they're still really good. For example, oftentimes off of land state, the first monster you're going to summon is General Raiho. So while your opponent's trying to combo, while the opponent's trying to break your board, they are discarding cards out of their hands. So they're already running low on resources. And they have to get rid of Lancia. But if they get rid of Lancia, Lancia will float into Trishula. Trishula rips the last card out of their hand. They rip their board, rip a card in the graveyard. It's absolutely game breaking. Trishula as well. If you make this card into a board, it gets removed. You just summon big Trishula and then wipe their board. We're also playing one copy of Brionac, yeah, the original Brionac, and one copy of Duloran. This deck is really good at making level 6s, and these are the two best water level 6 monsters. Unfortunately, Gungnir's level 7, and he's not very good anyway. Duloran, I think, gets more use than Brionac does, because you can bounce your own cards, right? We now have two Ice Bears that can summon themselves from your hand in Yugioh and Speaker. And you can also bounce Freezing Chains back to your hand. There are many games where I would make this thing maybe on turn 3. Use this effect, put the Freezing Chains back in hand, activate Freezing Chains again, get back a monster. Or you can use the effect, put back with Gorgias, use Gorgias effect, summon him back. But yeah, Duloran's really good because you get more flexibility. You can reuse some of your cards. Brionac came out once, I used him to out a Naturia Beast, and then I died on the next turn. Yeah, he wasn't that great, but I like him. We are also playing one copy of Deep Sea Prima Donna and Coral Dragon. You have a lot of synchro climbing plays with him. You can go into Deep Sea Prima Donna. Prima Donna's effect is if you use it for a synchro summon, the monster that you use it as synchro material cannot be targeted by card effects. And going first, you're mainly going into Dragite, just because this is like the only negate that Ice Bears can consistently put up. I did have a game where I, just for fun, used his effect, and I reveal the Nibiru and bounce the monster. So you can do that, but like, let's be real, you're not, unless you're crazy. Dragite is really good going first. We do have another level 8 going second. I'll show you him in a bit, because again, we're going in terms of utility. We're also playing one Archetis. There is a really funny combo with Coral Dragon, and I believe it is Speakers for the Ice Barrier that lets you draw 4 cards. Basically, if you can get like Mirror Magic Master plus Speakers, right? If you go use his effect or summon Speakers, use his effect, sack off the Speakers, you get 3 tokens. You can then synchro him plus a token to make Coral Dragon. He gets a search. Because you control an Ice Barrier token, you control an Ice Barrier monster, so Speaker's live, banish Speaker, get a 3rd token. And then you can just synchro all 3 into Croco Dragon, get 4 cards, 1 draw off of Coral Dragon, and then 3 draws off of the 3 tokens. Alternatively, you can just go Trishula, but like, you probably want to save the Trishula for your land state in case it gets outed. That combo, I did it once and I whiffed on the draws. It's not as good as you might think. The main purpose is to try to get into hand traps, which is, I guess, not the worst thing. We're also playing one Gimmer Agery. This card is amazing. If you don't know what it does, it has 2 effects. During either player's turn, you can activate this effect. This turn, your face-up monsters cannot be destroyed or banished by your opponent's cards. And if you activated this effect in response to one of your opponent's cards, you can banish all copies of that card from your opponent's field and graveyard. And if in your graveyard and your opponent banishes a card, you can just summon it back. Against Runic, right? Because they're banishing cards off the top of your deck, you just go, alright, effective Gimmer Adrian, he's coming back. If you don't want to make a Lancia, you can always make her and pass. She's a pretty decent card to end on, because your opponent can't get through her without losing a card or 2. And even if they do get rid of her, she can always come back. I was making her quite a bit. We're also playing a copy of Grail Dragon. So this is the going second level 8. Grail Dragon has an effect that says if it's synchro summoned, you can target cards your opponent controls up to the number of water monsters used for its synchro summon and then destroy them. And if it's destroyed, you can bring back a water from your graveyard but negate its effects, except for Grail Dragon. If you did the math for Mirror Magic Master, when you get the 3 tokens to level 5, you have level 1, 2, 3, plus 5, that's 8. You can synchro all of them off for Grail Dragon. You get to destroy 4 cards on your opponent's field. And a search. So, I never made him. I never made Grail Dragon, but that is a really, in theory, a huge back-breaking play if you can get it to go off. I never summoned him, though. The other synchro monster that I played, I never summoned him, was White Aura Whale. So if he's synchro summoned, you can destroy all your opponent's attack position monsters. It can attack monsters twice and does piercing. If it gets destroyed by battle of card effect, you can banish a water from your graveyard to summon him back and he becomes a tuner. In theory, that matters, because the tokens are level 1. So if you have 2 tokens, you bring back the White Aura Whale. He's a tuner. You can use him plus the 2 tokens to make Lancia, or him plus 2 tokens to make Gimmer Adrian. That never came up though. I never really summoned a White Aura Whale. Usually I was making Dragite. And going second, I usually was in the position to make a level 8 synchro. Had to go for Lancia or Gimmer Adrian. And then the last synchro is Baron. I never summoned this card. You have a lot of restrictions on your best monsters. Mirror Magic Master locks you into water synchros. Revealer of the Ice Barrier locks you into water monsters. Ron Adrian, while using a token, you can't summon monsters except for water monsters, so you can't. So I never really made this thing. I'm considering cutting it. There are lines that let you make it, right? Speakers plus Georgius means that you can make this thing. The problem with that, I think, is that you don't really have any kind of follow-up. Is this Baron pass, and that's not really worth it. So I would consider cutting this. The problem is that the water synchro pool is kind of bad. The last card in the deck is Marincess Coral Anemone. As I alluded to earlier, there is a really funny combo that you can do using Revealer of the Ice Barrier. So if you go Revealer effect, discard a card, summon the Mirror Magic Master, you then link these off to summon Coral Anemone, you get a search. Now, if you're afraid of a hand trap, you can search your Freezing Chains here, because Coral Anemone can use its effect, target a water monster with 50-100 less attack, summon it to a zone that it points to. You target the Mirror Magic Master. Let's say they negate it. You can just go Freezing Chains, get back the Mirror Magic Master, sack off the Anemone, you get your 3 tokens. That is a pretty simple combo that you can do. If you don't want to play Coral Anemone, well, I think you kind of have to. The Anemone is kind of mandatory. There are certain cards that you could probably cut. I don't think you necessarily need White Aura Whale. Maybe you don't need Grail Dragon. Maybe you don't even need Baron. There are a couple other options you can play. Chenging is a really good level 10 water. I want to put him in. I just don't have an extra copy. You could also play Salamangreat Almirage. Right, Almirage kind of lets you do the same thing. If you just open Mirror Magic Master and don't have a way to like get another monster on the board, you normal him, you link him off for Almirage, get Freezing Chains, use Freezing Chains, get him back, sack off Almirage, get your tokens. But anyway, that does it for this deck profile. Please, if you enjoyed, like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, do whatever you do, never like a video on YouTube, and thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.